So, Futility, one of Owen's shorter pieces, and probably again a fascinating one. Um, a lot of people, when you sort of say, "Oh, I'm going to teach Owen or I'm going to study Owen," and you say futility, pretty much everyone goes, "Oh, move him into the sun." They're familiar with that opening line. But before we get to that opening line, like a lot of Owen's poetry, let us look at his title. Now, this title here, Futility, you've got other titles. Dolce is clearly an incredible title in terms of what he does at the end of the poem. Insensibility has a couple of meanings to it, you know. Then you get things like strange meeting, the word strange, and then the descent into hell. The next war, suggesting that, of course, the Great War or the war to end all wars was certainly not the war to end all wars, if you get my drift. Anthem for Doomed Youth, use of the word anthem against the word doomed, a kind of oxymoron and so forth. And this one, futility, a futile exercise. When something is futile, it is done to the point of it being more than just meaningless. It is almost sinful to do something that is futile. So, for instance, if one were to say it's okay to eat meat, the reason why it is okay to say kill an animal is because we feed ourselves through the death of that animal. Whereas if you were to just kill an animal for the sake of it, that's a futile exercise. It doesn't serve any direct or immediate purpose. And so futility is one of the great human flaws. And so this title is a pretty big one in that sense. Yes, the war is futile. It got bogged down, as we know, in the Western Front. And you can ask your history teachers about that particular concept, is very, very famous thing, that war of attrition that World War One was. But the futile act in this is the act of moving this dying soldier directly into the sun with some kind of old-fashioned, unusual, sort of ritualistic event that Owen's trying to do, and he knows it's futile because he knows that, you know, if anyone's been abandoned by God or any kind of God, it's these people on the Western Front. How many times have we come across God or a biblical sort of language in Owen's work, and sure enough, nothing better has come from it other than death and dying. Here in this poem, we do meet one of a personal soldier again dying, very much like Dolce, where we have an actual death. We have the gas attack, where a soldier clearly dies, and the death is described, and then the soldier haunts Owen in his dreams. In Strange Meeting, okay, we might meet a dead enemy soldier, or we might meet the existential self. It's one of those lovely sort of essay-esque moments for you to write about. This one, there's definitely a dead body, or a dying body, a body that is possibly going to come back to life. Now, sun worship, I've got a Google search as you can open on this. So here's a Google search on sun worship, and these are the images. You just type in the word sun worship into Google, Dr. Google, and up he comes. I'll just get rid of myself for a second here. So here he is. Here's some sun worship here, and you can see ancients and sort of religious imagery or hippie type imagery. Look at this one though. Very, very Christian. Very Christian. You've Stonehenge over here. You've got rock surface here, sun worship, all that sort of stuff, the sun worship. And so it goes, and so it goes. And it's kind of a repeated motif in most societies. I'll just bring myself back. So, move him into the sun. Gently its touch awoke him once. At home, whispering of fields half sown, it woke him, even in France, until this morning in this snow. Full stop. Try and bring him back to life. Move him into the sun. It did work once, the way the sun normally would, in terms of springtime, life, youth. Owen is always going back to that idea of a doomed youth. These people are in the spring of their lives, the coming of their age, what one might call their prime. It woke him, even in France, even in a different or an alien environment, until this morning in the snow. If anything might rouse him now, the kind old sun will know. A last-ditch attempt, the kind old sun, almost childlike in its sense of nursery rhyme language there, the kind old sun. Yes, it's personification, but we don't have a capital letter there, so the sun isn't being made as a god or as a proper noun, but sort of just the good old-fashioned kind old sun, our old friend. If anything might rouse him now, if anything, and the word anything is a desperate word, next to might. In the second stanza, think how it wakes the seeds. Who's Owen talking to here? He's kind of like he's himself almost. Think about it, everyone. This works in nature. There's a miracle going on here. Think how it wakes the seeds, it being the sun. Woke once the clays of a cold star. Now we definitely get some biblical imagery here because man is made from clay in terms of Genesis and so forth. And life began. The sun somehow brought life to earth. We're still not entirely sure. So therefore, life must, by definition in poetic terms, be miraculous. Regardless of what science is saying to us, we dismiss that in terms of poetry here, in terms of what Owen is actually trying to do in ritualistic sense. Our limbs so dear achieved, our sides full nerve, still warm, too hard to stir. This creation, is it too much to ask for the miracle to happen one more time? Was it for this the clay grew tall? And then we finally get that rhetorical question. Hello there. We finally get that question again of futility back to the idea of the war. The humankind's last ditch effort and last story is this war. What was the point? Oh, what made fatuous sunbeams toil to break Earth's sleep at all? What was the whole point of the human existence? And so in the end, a futility is represented in our own selves. The futile war, the futility of man, life and death, the idea of life being blistered out of somebody like this creates almost an elegy for the human race, and a sad one at that, a desperate one, a futile one, really. Oh, what made fatuous? So you get this lamenting language, this sort of poetic, almost romantic death. Oh, what made fatuous sunbeams toil to break earth's sleep at all? A bit of personification there too. Okay, and toil rhymes up here. Oh no, so it doesn't. And so toil reminds us of the work and so forth as we go on. So using futility in the essay, probably teaching us more about the human experience than the other world. And I would use it in that sense because it sums up in so many short verses essentially everything to do with the human experience, the futility of all that we are, coming down to an inevitability of war being the end. Okay, see how you go.